If you already filed a tax extension, this video is for you. And if you didn't file an extension, don't click away yet, because in just a minute, I'm going to explain exactly what happens for you as well and how much it's really going to cost. I promise it's not as bad as you think. Okay, first of all, let's start with the people who filed an extension, because you actually did one important thing right. An extension gives you more time to file your return. However, and this is important, it does not give you more time to pay your tax. So if you owed money, interest and late penalties will still apply. And that's completely normal, and it surprises a lot of people. Now, it's important to understand, if you're getting a refund, then there is no interest and penalty, because guess what? You already overpaid. So if you're getting a refund, take a big breath, relax, it's going to be okay. Now, you still got to file, don't get me wrong, but you're going to be okay. So if you got a refund, extensions are definitely nothing to worry about. Even if you didn't do the extension, you're going to be okay as long as we're talking about an individual tax return. However, though, if you do owe, here's the good news. By filing an extension, you avoided the most expensive penalty the IRS has, and that's that late filing penalty. So now let's talk about that. If you don't file an extension, this next part matters even more for you, because what happens after the deadline is very different for you and much more expensive. If you missed the deadline and didn't file an extension, the IRS immediately treats your return as late, and that triggers failure to file penalties. The failure to file penalty is nasty. It's 5% of the unpaid tax per month or part of a month. And part of a month matters, because even one day into the new month counts as a full month. That penalty can grow to a maximum of 25% of the tax you owed. So what's that look like? So if you owed $10,000 and you're 1 month late filing, that's roughly $500 in penalties just for not filing. And that's 1 month. What happens the next month? Another $500. So if you owe and you did not file an extension, this is very important that you understand. And that's the most important takeaway so far. Filing late is much more expensive than paying late. And that's why I always say we need to file that return, or at least file that extension, even if you can't pay right now, because otherwise it just adds up pretty quick. But let's talk about those of you who did file the extension for a minute. Let's talk about the failure to pay penalty, which applies if you owe and haven't paid yet. That penalty is much smaller. That penalty is about 0.5% per month. So on $10,000, that's roughly $50 per month, not $500 like the late filing penalty. That's $50. So that's not such a big deal. And if you get into an IRS approved payment plan because you can't afford to pay it, that rate can drop even lower, sometimes half. But that's not all. On top of the penalties, the IRS also charges interest. And interest is calculated daily, and it keeps running until the balance is paid. Right now, that interest rate is fairly similar. It's going to be roughly 0.5% per month. They adjust rates every quarter, but that gets you in the ballpark. And that interest still applies even if you filed an extension. Filing an extension does not stop the late payment or the interest. So what does that mean in real numbers? That means you're going to have 1% per month versus the 5% that you would have on a late filing. So what should you actually do next? Well, number one, if you didn't file an extension and you haven't filed your return yet, file as soon as possible. Get it together, get it done, because 5% per month, that goes up every single month for 5 months. But as soon as we can get it filed, that'll stop that from continuing to build. Number two, pay whatever you can as soon as you can. Penalties and interest are calculated on the unpaid balance. So even a partial payment helps. Remember what I said earlier, if you don't owe anything, they don't care. So the more you can pay in, the less your interest and penalties are going to be. Number three, if you can't pay in full, and this happens a lot, don't feel bad about it, look at a payment plan. It can dramatically reduce the ongoing penalties, and it'll stop nasty letters coming from the IRS. And it's not that big of a deal. The IRS will automatically take a payment arrangement up to 72 months just by asking for it. You just fill out a basic form with your tax return, submit it, bam, they'll send you a letter, you sign, agree, 72-month payment arrangement. Now, I don't recommend staying in that arrangement any longer than you have, but it's way better than not filing and letting all the penalties and interest just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Let's set it up, file for a payment arrangement, and let's get our life back under control, right? Now look, most people who miss the deadline aren't necessarily irresponsible. Maybe they are, but they're not always. They're busy. They're busy business owners. They're busy taking care of family, overwhelmed at work, or maybe they were just simply afraid of the number. But the truth is the IRS doesn't reward avoidance. It rewards action. So that's what you need to do. You got to file that return. If you miss the extension, the clock is ticking. You need to get after it. If you file the extension, you can breathe a little easier. If you want proactive tax planning instead of panic every April, that's exactly what my firm focuses on. So go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe. And if you want to get in contact with us, we have information on our homepage. So with that, we'll see you next time.